we would do in light of Confirmation Sunday, a lot of different things happening today. So kind of going back into the youth ministry version of messages, where everyone has the attention span of a gnat, so you have to do a lot of things to keep people's attention. There it is. So I thought it would just be kind of fun to approach this a little bit different in light of what Sunday is. I want to share with you just a few scriptures real quick. Revelation 21:5 says this: He who is seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Matthew 19:28, Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne. He would say that in Matthew chapter 19. In Matthew chapter 22, Jesus would actually quote the Psalm of David in 22 verses 44. He said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand, and I put your enemies under your feet. In other words, Jesus has a chair that he sits in. It's a throne. It's a really nice setup, and he's painting the imagery that, in other words, God's kingdom, his throne, and his chair, so to speak, is over every other person's chair of power and authority in all existence for all time. In fact, even the highest level of people in authority, while it feels like maybe they have more power over you in this temporal age, Jesus is saying that even my enemies, a footstool isn't even the chair. The footstool is where you put your feet, because you'd rather put your feet there than even on the floor. So this is the picture that Jesus wants people to understand of his ultimate power, his authority. He sits above all things, and even the worst, most powerful people you can imagine, they're just making up his footstool of where he's going to rest his feet. So it's absolute, it's power, it's unquestionable, it's unchallengeable, okay? Now here's what's interesting in light of today. What's interesting in light of today is you too, along with our confirmands, have sat, some of you, in all of these seats that are up here, okay? Our confirmands. It's likely you don't remember this seat, but you sat in a seat very similar to this. You did. You did. And it's a good thing that you were only like this big when you did, because you're out of control at this age. You're like a miniature Frankenstein, okay? All you ate was mushed up food, okay? Processed stuff. If you liked something, you threw it. If you didn't like something, you threw it. You banged your hands down when you wanted something. You're like a little animal when you sat in this thing, okay? You made a mess everywhere you went. You don't remember it, but your parents do. And they would talk real slow, and they'd say mama, mama, right? And we all know that dada is easier to say, right? So to every broken-hearted mother in the world, what's the kid say first? Dada, right? We always felt good about that, dads, right? Even though it has nothing to do with our position, it's just easier to say. Now here's what's funny. What word were you never taught? No one in this room ever had their parents look at them and go, now say mine. Can you say mine? Can you say mine? Say mine. But didn't we all learn it? At this age, you could already say mine. The little God complex started. Very, very young, you already identified that things that weren't yours were yours. And you would say it at some point in this chair, but then things would progress. Sorry to the camera people in advance. You sat in this chair. Maybe you guys remember this chair. You should remember this chair at some point. It's a hard chair to sit in, especially once you're like full grown. But when you're in this chair, you start to realize how different you are from other people. It starts to dawn on you. You notice differences in yourself from others, your sense of autonomy, right? You realize you kind of have your own thing going on. Maybe you can't quite say it or verbalize it to that level, but all of that's starting to happen. Your little skills, gifts, abilities, passions, your little quirks, the things about you that were funny, the things about you that are irritating, they're already developing right now in this chair, okay? This is a chair that your folks remember well, and now comes the chair of all eternity, where every young person sits forever, right? This is like a chair that goes on from seems like first grade to eternity, to college. The chair changes, but the game really doesn't. You sit in this chair forever, and so much happens in this chair. Your body changes. Your voice changes. You see everything around you in a very, very different way, okay? The opposite sex, they went from being cooties to cuties, huh? They went from being ooh to hey, right? It all happens during this chair, navigating all of this, figuring out your place, your identity. This is when peer pressure starts pouring in, and you have to figure out what's my place, what's my style, what's my whatever, it's hitting you at every level. And this goes on for a solid 12 years. It seems like it's never gonna end, but confirmands, can I just tell you this? If you really stop and think, you just got to this moment. That quick. I remember that moment. I remember it. Now, when I was in that moment, they made me stand up and recite stuff in front of everyone. And it scarred me so much that I don't do that to you. There it is, okay? But that feeling where it seems like it takes forever to get somewhere, and then the moment you get there, you realize what just happened. And it's not just for you, for everyone here. Like next week, we're gonna celebrate people that graduated and stuff. For every parent, that's the feeling they have. Like, it seemed like this drug on forever, and now it's over. And that sums up human existence in here. I don't care what phase you're at, there it is. However quickly you seem like this drug on, and then you got through it, and you were shocked suddenly how quick you got through it, that's human existence. You're gonna go from the confirmand to the grandparent of the confirmand before you even know it. Scary fast. This would happen. And then you leave this chair. I think we have a few people who've now left this chair, actually even in this room, and they've moved to this chair. This chair is unlike any chair in the list. This chair is this bizarre world that doesn't exist at any other time for human beings. This chair is when freedom and responsibility are so out of whack, it's not even funny. Yes, your parents call you and they say, so is college hard? And you say, oh, it's killing me. Well, of course it is. You don't go to bed till 3 in the morning. That's why it's hard, okay? Right? Now, I'm just gonna say this. If you've ever sat in this chair, you're headed to this chair. As a guy, speaking as a guy who took 5 years to get a 4-year degree, nothing constructive happens between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in this chair. You're welcome in advance, okay? That's free advice. And here's the reality of this chair. Those of you that sit in this chair, when you have this freedom, people make decisions in this chair that sometimes takes them 10 years, 20 years to repair. Be very, very careful with what you're given in this chair. Sometimes even if you physically navigate it, the mental side of it, the emotion side of it, really hard to work through. People will take decades to fix what happened in just a few years in this chair. Conversely, if you steward it well, perfectly, I don't think that's possible, okay? But you steward this well, those of you that are now out of that chair and are in this chair, this sets you up in the other way really, really well. It'll set you up to do amazing, great things in your life. But this chair is huge. This chair is when relationships get really, really serious. This chair has some beautiful things about it, lifelong friendships that are forged. But this chair can also bring a lot of pain. And like all of life, it can be about circumstances and situations. Confirmands, you're not here yet. But what I really hope you take really seriously, those scripture verses about being strong and courageous, about redemption, never thinking you're beyond redemption. There may be things that happen in this chair you'll wonder. You might just wonder if you are, and you're not. Nothing will separate you from the love of Christ Jesus. I know this drags on forever. You can't wait to probably get out of this chair already like yesterday. But I'm just telling you, you'll be in this chair and past this chair so fast, you just blink and it's over. After this chair comes this chair. This is the corporate sellout version of yourself. and you're going to meet this person. This is when you start building a career. You start building a future. You start building things that you literally care nothing about right now. Your 401k, your savings, your retirement. I remember when I first got in this chair, you know what my father said to me? I said, Dad, what should I buy? You know what he said? Land. Land? I thought, dirt? How am I going to go out this weekend if I buy dirt, right? I wish I would have bought dirt, but I didn't when I was first getting into this chair, see? This is what's funny about this chair. People get in this chair and they're building the rest of their lives, and yet what they end up doing is they go, you know what? This isn't hard enough. I think I'm also going to try to build another chair at the same time. See, whenever you get to this chair, the reason your parents, just so you know, they got to this chair and you go, my parents aren't cool. My parents don't know what's going on in the world. They don't know what's happening on social media. Do you know why your future version of yourself stops being cool when you get to this chair? You know why your future version of yourself stops being relevant? It's because when you're sitting in this chair, you added this chair. This chair makes you sell your favorite car and your favorite stuff. This chair makes you a sellout to a minivan and stale French fries in between the seats and budget vacations and endless recitals and events that drag on forever, and it lasts forever. And the noise and the complaining and the madness and the running around lasts forever, and it's all so expensive that you don't even know what happens for a solid 18 years. And whenever you come out of this hole that we all think our parents aren't cool, it's because they didn't have time to notice anything else but what was in this chair. Can you tell I'm living it? Can you feel what I'm going through right now? See, this is what happens. But maybe some of you are in this chair and you're balancing this one. You get through this phase. Sometimes if we're not careful, we forget who we are. Sometimes we forget who our spouse is. Like we haven't even really talked to them, really. We've been running logistics for 18 years. We've just been running a free Uber service. And we forgot why we fell in love. We forgot what used to make us laugh, what made us interested in the other person. We always think of Satan as just wanting us to just get bad. If Satan can't get you bad when he's in this chair, he'll just get you busy. He's good with busy. He's good with distracted. He's good with making you think you've got all the plates spinning and have taken your eye off the most important thing that defines every part of our existence. He's good with that too. He'll take it. Yeah, this chair, confirmands, you'll be in this chair so fast. Seems like it's an eternity. You're still 2 chairs you got to go through just to get to this one. But believe me, you're going to be there quick. And you know what I would say to you if you're a confirmand this morning, if you're a younger person? I know it seems like I'm about to do something that's going to drive you nuts, but you might want to cut your folks a little bit of slack. I know. They may seem unreasonable. They may seem short. They may seem legalistic. They may seem like they're just pushing you all the time, everything else. Can I just tell you, because I'm living it, these are 2 very hard chairs to manage at the same time. Really, really hard. And unfortunately, none of us appreciate it until we're sitting in it. And then we fully appreciate it. And that's when your parents become brilliant again. See? That's how it works. Now, here's the thing. You get out of this chair, though. Here's what's interesting. Now, this is unimaginable, this next chair. I mean, you don't even have to stretch before you run. Right? If I asked you to just run down the hall, you could do it right now, right? Your body doesn't hurt. You can't even imagine this chair. At your age, it's hard to even discern the difference between 55 and 95. In your mind, they're all just old. That's how you see it. There's young, and there's just everyone else. Everything else is an other. It's a junk drawer of old people. That's all it is. And see, when you get to this chair, do you know why when you talk to people who sit in this chair, most of their stories are about what happened in these? Because things start dawning on people who sit in this chair. They realize there's more chairs behind them than in front. There's more to talk about what happened in those than what's happening in this one. You know, if you sit in this chair, you start evaluating. You start evaluating legacy. You start wondering, what did I give? What did I do? How will I be remembered? When I look around in my life, what's the net result of what's been planted? Did I do well? Was I faithful? Was I good? And you know, can I just tell you, if you're getting near this chair, if you're in this chair already, you know what Satan is really good with? He's really good with you pretending like you could ever change what happened in those chairs. Stay in yesterday to such a degree that you stay beat up and knocked down. Stay in the thought of every mistake or failure or shortcoming. Stay in regret, because he knows once you're in this chair, you can't go back to that chair. You can't go back to the one before it, see? Rather than enjoying whatever this moment looks like, he loves to get people to live in the other chairs while they're in this one. And instead of just being in the present of whatever that is, whatever that journey looked like to this one, understanding that God's grace covered every one of those. Whatever that looked like for you may have been bad choices in literally every chair up to this one. And maybe now it's hitting you, now that you're in this chair. It will do you no good to constantly dwell on what happened in those. It'll do you no good. But this is the legacy chair. And then the final chair. You know, it's interesting. There's a lot about your disposition in this chair that's not always that different than the first one. Kind of ends the way it starts. Confirmands. If you could have the perspective of at 14, 13, 15, of these people who realize it's all but over and almost, the perspective in this chair, you would live with such boldness and a lack of fear of anything Satan would ever throw at you. Because this is the chair that has the most perspective. This is the chair that would have every little moment back. See, if you're a young parent, speaking to myself and speak to you, this is the chair where you would do anything to go back to all the yelling and crying and screaming. You would do anything to hear the little feet pitter-patter in the house. You would even go with a little bit of old-fashioned arguing and complaining. I'll do anything to get out of this chair again. But it's in this chair that we can become just filled with fear. Our mortality is so, so real. The world seems to be moving so fast, so hard to wrap our heads around. And we look at everything that we see in the news and everything we see on social media, and it all seems like it's going to chew us up and spit us out. Nothing is new under the sun before the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There are new things for Western civilization, no doubt. Nothing is new from Babylon to ancient Rome and anywhere in between. Every kind of behavior, every kind of action, every kind of world issue has been played out before. I love America. I love America. But what's playing out in front of you is a rerun TV dinner, reheated. It's not a new entree. This is the time, more than ever, rather than handing yourself over to fear and worry and anxiety, hand yourself over to remembering the childlike faith. Things should boil right back down to what you were told when you were just a little person. It's all about Jesus. It's all about the cross. It's all about his faithfulness. All of that information is great, grand, and wonderful, but it's all about him. And he will carry you into those final stages of your life faithfully. If this is your family member, your friend, your mother, your grandmother, whatever it may be, an aunt or an uncle, this is hard to watch people sit in this chair, but understand that there will be a day when you will never have to see this person this way ever again. They will get a new body, a new mind, and a new reality. In fact, I would argue that the next time you see the people who leave this chair for good, this side of heaven, you'll never meet that version of that person ever again. You knew a funny person, you didn't know a perfectly funny person. Perfection is what they receive after they leave this chair. Something beautiful that God has for them. Here's what's crazy in confirmands. I want to leave you with two things that Jesus said. In John 3:3, Jesus replied, "Very truly, I tell you, no one can come to the kingdom of God unless they are born again." And actually, even in the Greek, it isn't actually born again. It's born from above. You were born from above. You know what that means when he says born from above? It means that when we baptized you three, there was a promise put over your life. What is baptism? Remember this lesson? Yeah, because I repeated it 87 times in 30 minutes, right? Right? It is engagement. It is a promise. That was your baptism. And what just happened today is that was fulfilled today. But you were born from heaven, born again from heaven when we baptized you. And today that fulfillment happened. That means God didn't break his promises. It means God was faithful in the people around you. And today what was started there is now fulfilled in front of this whole congregation. And here's what Jesus would say in Matthew 18:3-4. He said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." You know the trick is? You know what Jesus wants? Jesus wants, whether you're sitting in this chair, whether you sit in this chair, whether you're sitting in the top of a chair at the top of a high-rise one day, whether you're sitting in a chair like this or like this, what Jesus is saying is, if you may never remember this firsthand, but whenever you were like this, like a child, he's saying be like a child. And what does he mean? When you were little, everything you needed, this was your disposition. If you were hungry, it came from above you. If you were thirsty, it came from above you. If you were tired, it came from above you. Your whole world was above you all the time. Everything you needed, big and small, came from above. You had no illusions that you had control. You couldn't even get out of this chair unless someone helped you. Everything, you were dependent. And Jesus is saying, and he's saying to every last person in here, no matter which one of these you're in, he says he wants a person that whatever they look for in their lives, whatever they're needing in their lives, big and small in their lives, that the disposition is up. It's not out. I'm not fixing my world. I'm going to look up for things that are big and small. That's the kind of disposition that Jesus desires. That's what Jesus wants. That's the love of Jesus for you. That his grace and his mercy and his love endures forever. Amen. Amen.